At the heart of the Hindu Meenakshi Temple in Madurai, in the region of Tamil Nadu, gods of stone have always been a part of people's daily lives. Each day, over 15,000 believers come here to visit and worship them. Everyone maintains a close personal relationship with the god of their choice. With almost 1 billion followers, Hinduism is the third largest religion in the world.
The temple is home for us Brahmins, but also for everybody. Even if everyone has their own home, the temple is everyone's home.
Until India's independence in 1947 and the end of the caste system, temples were reserved for Brahmins and kings. Built in the 10th century, Meenakshi was among the first temples to open its doors to all worshippers. It has become one of the most popular.
The temple ought to be a place where a man can face himself. Once a man discovers the true state of his soul, he can only want to improve himself.
A mirror of mankind, the gods reflect every human emotion. They fill each recess of the temple with their infinite transformations. They have 1,000 names and 1,000 faces. As they enter the temple, worshippers pour ash, symbolizing the cycle of death and rebirth, onto Ganesha, the elephant-headed god with a child's body. Ganesha is the god of benevolence, the link between the human and the divine. He brings people wealth and happiness. He is the most popular god in India. Outside, the pantheon of Hindu gods is displayed in a joyous Baroque disorder. It is said there are 33,000 divinities in Meenakshi Temple, representing the 33,000 manifestations of the 3 major Hindu deities: Brahma the Creator, Vishnu the Preserver, and Shiva the Destroyer, who renews life. Each god has taken on a human form. Perched on the stucco walls, they participate in the great cycle of life. Every 15 years, they get a fresh coat of paint, because in India, color is a symbol of vitality. Color is the light emanating from the deities' bodies to illuminate the world of man. In ancient times, long before Hinduism, long before temples even existed, in the age of Vedism, one of the oldest religions in the world, the gods had only one dwelling place, the mythical Mount Meru, also known as Mount Kailash. It was considered the natural and spiritual center of the universe. Dr. Vedashalam, former director of historical monuments, has studied the origins of this temple.
During the Vedic age in India, there weren't any temples. People merely recited mantras and prayers. All living beings were considered temples, since each living being has a soul, and each soul is a representation of God. And then temples came about. The very first temples were inspired by the form of Buddhist temples. Each temple was based on the human body. because the human body was considered to be a holy temple.
கருதிய காலம்.
The temple is not merely the dwelling place of gods, but the symbolic representation of a sacred body in human form. The temple is a living being, and the labyrinth of its courtyards, pillared halls, and corridors are its entrails. From the granite pillared ceilings to the floors of sculpted stone, all its surfaces are holy.
The entire temple, from its foundations to its very top, is comprised of 6 parts, symbolically representing each of the 6 parts of the human body.
The foundations represent the feet, the walls, the body. The circular tambour represents the neck and head, and the gold spires, the top of the skull. Visible from far off on the horizon, the huge Gopuram gateway towers mark the borders of the Meenakshi compound. The temple sprawls over a surface of 6 hectares in the heart of Madurai, the city built around it. Like a beacon in the midst of the city, it watches over its prosperity, constantly reminding people of the permanent presence of the sacred.
The temple has a total of 12 gopurams, or gateway towers. Of the 12 towers, 8 of them were built when the temple was first constructed. Subsequent kings always wanted to make something bigger, and the last ones built the 4 great towers we see today.
Positioned at the 4 cardinal points, the gopurams surround the shrine at the center of the temple. Beneath its golden roof lies the most sacred spot, the realm of Shiva. From the start, the builders of Meenakshi adopted and adapted the principles of Buddhist architecture. The shrine where Shiva resides is built within concentric walls that represent the cosmos. The degree of holiness decreases as one moves away from the center. But a few centuries later, this perfect order was thrown off by the construction of a second shrine devoted to Shiva's wife. Ever since, the holy complex has developed around 2 centers rather than just 1. An architectural exception, unique in India, engendered from the unlikely love of the god Shiva for a woman-turned-goddess. A woman who gave her name to the temple, Meenakshi. The temple owes its huge popularity to the legend that joins a woman to a god. Every evening, their wedding night is reenacted. Concealed inside a palanquin borne by Brahmins, the only ones allowed to enter the sacred shrine, Shiva passes through the long hallways of the maze-like temple to join Meenakshi, who awaits him in her own shrine.
Meenakshi and Shiva have the power to bestow blessings and spread well-being upon life on this earth. They alone can grant nirvana, the final liberation from the cycle of life.
Each night, the god, exalted by human emotions, stops at the same spots in the temple so the Brahmins can fan and feed him.
We are like bees. They seek nectar to bring back to the hive to make honey. Like them, we bring all our power and wisdom to the center of the shrine.
Historian Jita Pai, professor at the University of Wisconsin, has studied Meenakshi's unique feminine figure.
She's popular in Madurai because people here in Madurai think of her not only as their goddess, but also as the daughter or the queen, the Pandyan queen, which is a dynasty that had its origins and its center here in Madurai.
According to legend, the king and queen of Madurai were unable to produce a son and heir, so the gods gave them a little girl as a gift. She was born with 3 breasts. They named her Meenakshi and raised her like a boy. She became an invincible warrior with perfect mastery of weapons. One day, she headed into battle on Mount Kailash, the home of Shiva.
And when she gets there and faces Shiva, her 3rd breast falls. And she realizes at that moment that he is to be her husband. So they were married with great celebration and festivities among all the people in Madurai, because they were so excited that their queen was getting married and their queen had become a goddess.
Meenakshi, now an accomplished goddess of love, femininity, and fertility, watches over her fellow women.
So we don't know in these temple legends whether everything in it is historical, that it actually happened. And that's not the issue here, because what's important is this is what people believe happened, and this is how they explain the temple, their goddess, and the god. People will refer to gods in the present. There's a belief or this feeling that gods are not only part of their daily lives, but alive.
In Madurai, the gods live like people, and people can become gods.
The sacred space is not circumscribed, it's very porous, it's very permeable, and it's very flexible as well. The sacred is not just in the temple, it extends and becomes part of one's daily life.